the Core Cast.
From the makers of Somebody Set Us Up the Bomb Pops comes Hazelnut Hex cereal, the latest creation from Schmupper's Choice. Packed with crunchy nostalgia and fortified with extra continues, it's the only breakfast cereal that shoots back. This is Shoot the Corecast, and I am Addicted, also known as Addicted to Shmups, and with me as always,
MetalFRO, also known as Game Boy Guru, and if you would like to connect with the podcast, you can do so in a number of ways. We are on the social media part of internet.com, and check us out on X or Twitter at ShootCorecast. You can follow me there directly at Game Boy Guru. You can also find us on Blue Sky, so check us out there. Check the links to all of our socials and the feeds and everything on our Linktree page. That's linktr.ee/shootthecorecast. And you'll also find on that site a link to our Discord server. Would highly ask you to check that out, join the server, join us for a Shmup Club playthrough, talk shmups, talk gaming. We have a good community, very nice group of folks, and so highly encourage you to join and become a part of our little corner of the interwebs. If you would also please like, follow, rate, subscribe, review, etc., whatever the terminology is on your podcast platform of choice. I think we're on most of the podcatcher services these days. And of course, follow me on Twitch, because I do stream the Shmup Club Game of the Month multiple times every month, and that is twitch.tv/Guru Gameboy.
And I'd also like to say, if you do join the Discord channel, you can talk Kasoge, but please keep it cordial.
Yeah. Like I say in the rules channel on the Discord, we keep the podcast family friendly. The Discord doesn't have to be, but we do ask that you avoid, not safe for work posts and things like that.
Indeed.
Because some of us like to keep up with the Discord while we're at the office, and I certainly don't want my boss walking in while I'm looking at something on Discord.
I think someone in the background is just going, challenge accepted.
Oh, no.
All right. Well, moving on from challenge accepted to challenge failed, I still haven't had a chance to play Rolling Gunner, because I've been stuck playing another Crab's Treasure. Once I get involved in trying these Duke Souls games, it just... it's like one of the times I know I shouldn't, but here I go again on my own. Going down the only road I've ever known. It's
you're like in The Godfather. Every time I think I'm out, they drag me back in.
Yes, it does. That and those Steam sales. That describes the Steam sale right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, I saw Hebroxy is 1 and 2. It's like $1.50.
Right? Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I've been busy with live stuff, work stuff, and other stuff. I haven't done a ton of extracurricular gaming, although unlike the Duke Souls games that you've been involved with, I have been addicted to Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment on the Switch 2, and so that has kind of taken my focus away. I'm nearly done with it though, so I'm hoping to get a little bit of time into Rolling Gunner before the end of the year, because I do want to tackle the other two difficulties, the normal and the whatever the hard mode is, on overpower mode, because the way that the game mechanic works, I think, it'd be awesome if I could figure out a way to clear that mode and make that happen.
Yeah, that would definitely be a nice way to cap off the year. I believe the term you're searching for is Mark MSX mode.
Yeah, right.
All right. So I will definitely try and put some time in as well. It's just been really difficult with everything going on. And like you, I didn't expect to have so much to do, even like right up until last 2 days or last couple days before Christmas. So here we are, Halloween in December. So
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the shmup news. Helioside is in development shooter from Horoscope that uses a 16:9 vertical presentation, has a slick graphical look, and is currently set for a 2026 release on Steam.
Bobble and the Tri-Crystal is a forthcoming horizontal shooter from Henry Nova. The visuals are fashioned after the Game Boy aesthetics and complete with a dot matrix style overlay. You play a robot fish out to find the Tri-Crystal before escaped prisoners do, so that you can rule the sea. The Steam page is up to wishlist, and the game currently lists a March 2026 release.
I think that's probably also the plot of a SpongeBob movie, or maybe an episode. The previously released Telenet shooting collection for Adia is now available on Steam as of December 9th. I don't think you can get a mullet DLC for this one, but that's okay.
Aww.
That's who I think you should go for. Since we're in the October episode, next Halloween you go as a guy wearing the shirt that just says Guy RS.
Can you say Guy R.S.? Ultra Zero is another entry into the Space Harrier-like into-the-screen style shooter from Penn Games. The release date is listed only as to be announced on Steam so far, but it's slated as a combination shooting game and visual novel.
There's more of those than you might think, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it seems like the shmup and visual novel genres have started to cross over more, and we're seeing a ton of this kind of Space Harrier, Night Striker, Panzer Dragoon type of rail shooter style thing coming back, and so it's an interesting convergence of events.
It's beginning. All right. Toho Ishu, What the Bullet Hell? Is a new Toho fan game from developer Klytos. It's traditional Toho approach with a 4x3 vertical presentation, whacking crazy bullet patterns, and music that's similar to what you find in official games. It has released on December 10th on Steam, so check it out.
Every time you do that crazy thing, I always think of UHF.
Oh, crazy. I was thinking, here we go, we're getting some crazy money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I always think of Crazy Ernie. This is Crazy Ernie from Crazy Ernie's Used Car Sales. Megacat Studios opened up pre-orders on their website, finally, for the Sega Genesis and Mega Drive versions of ZPF as of November 20th. The Steam release is still forthcoming, but for those who didn't back the game on Kickstarter, you can now acquire a physical copy.
I don't know about you, but this seems like it could be some sort of knockoff product. That I like the game and stuff, but the name ZPF sounds like it could be a knockoff energy drink.
Maybe? I don't know. The name doesn't really make sense to me. It's probably one of those things where there's a story to it, but no one has bothered to tell it yet.
Everyone gets the in-joke, except for within the development community, except for the people who buy it.
Yeah, something like that.
Automatic Eltron from Elysian CD is set for a Q1 2026 release on Steam. It's an 8-bit horizontal shooter that is inspired by 8-bit games in the 80s and sci-fi movies, according to Steam's page description. It looks like it takes direct inspiration from Natsume's shooter Scat, will include some Damaku-style patterns and bullet-canceling special weapons based upon the trailer. Well, it's bold to model your game after Scat, but I give them credit.
Yeah, when you watch the trailer, it actually does look promising. So hopefully this will be a solid one. Sectori from former Housemarque developer Kimmo Lahtinen has released on Steam as of November 18th. It's an arena shooter in the style of Geometry Wars, but with some interesting twists and additions. The playfield changes frequently, and you can be boxed in or even destroyed as new walls and boundaries spawn in. So far, the game has been well received. It's also launched for PS5 and Xbox Series.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the ones that I want to cover for next year or 2027. It definitely has that pedigree, and from everything I've seen on Digital Foundry, it seems like one of the not too heavy or heavily involved games that a lot of people seem to like, where pick up and play.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I watched, what was it? Chef Fataris' review of the game, and he was very favorable and complimentary of it. And certainly watching the gameplay footage, it looks like a good time.
Nice. Starlight Riders Hyper Jump, which has been available on sometime on Steam, is now available on Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox, courtesy of publisher East Asia Soft.
Yeah, this is one that I picked up on Steam a while back, and I've messed with it a little bit. I haven't quite wrapped my head around it yet. There's some stuff with the mechanics that were a little unclear, but it's good that it's more widely available. TZ Mini STG Collection launched on Steam November 19th from developer Tamazusa, and this compiles 4 previous releases, mostly Game Jam entries, into a single package. Haze, a horizontal rhythm-based shooter from 2025, Record 104, a Danmaku shooter with an emphasis on bombing, Senli 316 from 2021, which is a Danmaku with a shield system for bullet cancels, and then Elamano from 2020, Danmaku with a field switching system. And that was from the description, and I don't know if that's like a chaos field kind of thing or how that works. The collection is free to play, so you can just go to your Steam account and add it.
I like how it's the way that you have described it here. We've got your Danmaku with the bombing element, we got your Danmaku with the shield system, and we got your Danmaku with the bullet canceling system. Choose which one you like best.
We got all the Danmaku you could want.
Come down to Crazy Carl's Emporium. Yep. All right.
Just Crazy Ernie's Danmaku Emporium.
That's making on a shirt. All right. Cleared Hot, the Desert Strike style helicopter shooter from Not Knowing Corporation and MicroProse Software, is now in early access on Steam as of November 20th. There are so many isometric helicopter games coming out. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's something in the water. People are just going, hey, remember when Desert Strike was fun? Remember when... And I mean, how many of those games did they make? They made Desert Strike, Jungle Strike, Nuclear Strike.
Nuclear Strike, Soviet Strike. There's at least one other. I can't think of the name. But yeah, I think there were maybe 5 in the series.
That's what we need. Forget plumbers don't wear ties. Just give us a straight up helicopter strike, the Strike collection. Yeah,
that'd be a good one. Yeah, I mean, this is another one of those that's starting to sort of make the rounds again, this style, because you've got Cleared Hot, you've got Megacopter, there's at least one other that I can't think of the name of, that's more a traditional scrolling shmup, where you can switch which plane you're on, high or low. I wish I could remember the name off the top of my head. We mentioned it a while back on the news feed, but yeah, this is another one that the nostalgia for this style is starting to come back, and so this kind of isometric or 2.5D style look is beginning to come back again.
That reminds me. Maybe we should just throw an Airwolf for the Famicom on there so everyone can listen to that terrible bullet sound. over and over again. Yeah, I think Airwolf. What other stuff have they done with helicopters that could reuse in this team? I don't think the A-team would quite fit.
Right.
There. Although if they did Silkworm, that would be sort of cool.
Right.
The A-team van coming through. I don't know. Too much stuff, good ideas there for limited demand games.
Yes. Zexoid from M80 Games is listed as coming soon on Steam. It's a twin-stick shmup adjacent title, similar in style to the Nano Stray games, where you fly over the surface of a small planet or sphere, taking out enemies and upgrading your ship.
This sounds a lot like the stuff that was done by Housemarque before. What was the wasn't Gal? Oh shoot, the PS was it PS3? Yeah, Rezo Gunner was. It was their PS3. Is Super Stardust? I'm trying to think.
Oh
sure
yeah.
It'll come to me later.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now that R-Type Delta HD Boosted Edition is out, it is known that only between 60% and 70% of the PlayStation original game source code was available to the development team, so that some of the game had to be recreated from scratch. Meaning it's not merely an emulation with updated graphics, but some of the game was noticeably different from the original PS1 release. Clear River Games has since released a statement to this effect and all of the issues, and they've trying to determine how to address player concerns over the discrepancy. They were so busy, if they can, they never stop to determine if they should. They put frog DNA into it, and look what came out.
Yes.
We now have Jurassic R-Type Delta.
That not only are they turning the frickin' frogs gay, but they're putting the frog DNA in our shmups.
Jeez.
What's this world coming to?
That's going to turn into a meme on his shirt. I'm certain.
Yeah. I mean, I get where they're coming from, because obviously if the full source code isn't available, you just kind of have to roll with it. I mean, at least it's not Zero Gunner, where my understanding with Zero Gunner 2 was that they lost all the source code, and so the team who created Zero Gunner 2 basically had to do it from scratch and just remake the game, essentially, which is why they ended up calling it Zero Gunner 2 minus. And yeah, at least they had something to go on. They had a framework, but then they had to fill in the gaps and the holes where, the code wasn't going to cover it. It's unfortunate, but we understand the realities of that era, where a lot of the source code and a lot of the design documentation just was not preserved. And so this is what you have to do in those situations. If you're not going to be able to do a straight up emulation and do a nice pretty layer on top of it, and you're gonna do a port or, a new version of it, you're pretty much just gonna have to deal with there being differences.
Yep.
A new ROM dump of Viewpoint 2064 has been put out on the internet, and this is a much improved and more fully realized release than the previous early build. Based on the cartridge that the ROM was dumped from and details available so far, it appears that this was to have been either a final build or at least a final pre-release master. Comparisons with the earlier release build confirmed that it is a much more complete game than before. And the game was originally scheduled for a November 11th, 1999 release, according to an article on GameSpark, but was eventually canceled, as we know. And also, since the updated ROM's release, there has already been an English translation patch for the cinematics in the game. I'm glad to see that we got basically a finished or near finished version of this game, because preservation of this kind of stuff, since we were just talking about it with the R-Type Delta conversation, it's important. And so this is another one. Since we've already covered the first Viewpoint, I would like to play this on the for the podcast at some point, because it's free.
There's a lot of stuff that was just coming out of the woodwork recently. I saw stuff for Police Academy from the Video Game History Foundation.
Yep.
And Unseen something. The names cannot roll off the top of my head here.
Right.
But released Pit Fighter 2 for the Genesis, a prototype, which...
Yep, that just dropped on Hidden Palace.
And so, I mean, there is a lot still to be out there, and a lot still out. And I'm thankful to all the people who take the time and energy to preserve stuff like this. Not only games, but design documents, everything. Because video game history is definitely worth preserving.
For sure.
And speaking of worth preserving, Shield Maiden MX is finally out now for Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox. PlayAsia has begun shipping the physical versions of the game, including the limited editions.
Yeah, I got mine the other day.
And look forward to that sometime soon.
Yeah.
Ish.
Very, very likely, or if not very probably, a 2026 pick for Shmup Club. Baroque Shooting Reversed received a December 17th release on Steam, courtesy of publisher String. This is a side game based on the roguelike action RPG Baroque, which originally appeared on the Saturn and PlayStation, with later ports to the PS2 and Wii, and then the more recent port on the Switch. And I've kind of heard some rumblings through other Discord servers that maybe this is a fairly solid game.
Egg Rolls Shoot is the new Q 'em up available on Steam as of November 30th from developer CT13 Studio. It's a vertical game, has some Danmaku elements, and is very colorful. A demo is available to try before you buy.
Shoot the Corecast Discord member Scult711 has released Starry Sunshine on itch.io. This was a submission to Untitled Game Jam 119. It's a vertical shooter with a fairy protagonist that is inspired by both Toaplan and Danmaku games. It's a browser game that you can play free in the browser, but you can also download both the game and the music from the itch site.
Nice.
Yeah, and as to be expected with a Scult game, it is very Toaplan, very fast bullets that will ruin your day very quickly. But if you like Fire Shark, definitely give it a look.
Sounds good. Vibe Shooter is a free-to-play browser shmup on Not Magic 1 itch.io page. It's said to be inspired by Fire Shark and Devil Daggers, which is a very unique combination there of flavors.
Yeah, for sure. Arcade Projects forum user Tailsnick Retroworks is actively producing and selling the Salamander Multiversion Selector Board that can be used to quote-unquote upgrade the existing Salamander and Life Force arcade PCBs to allow you to select 4 different versions of the game. Salamander D, which is the European version, Salamander J, which is the Japanese version, Life Force USA version, and then Life Force Japan version. And as of this recording, more units are slated to ship in January 2026, and the cost of the board is 70 euros and ships from Spain. And if I'm not mistaken, our friend Joel may already have acquired one of these, because I know he's working on redoing a Salamander board right now, and I thought he had mentioned something about having bought one of these.
You know, projects like these need cool names. Why don't they just call it SMVS?
Salamander Multi-Video System?
Version Selector.
Oh, Version Selector.
SMVS. Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
It's not like one of the ones where you have to say HIJK elemental P. What the heck are you talking? You know, it rolls off the tongue pretty well.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. And for more 3-letter companies or acronyms here, Unique SNK Vertical Shooter Bermuda Triangle has released on Arcade Archives as of December 4th. The game implemented both traditional 8-way movement as well as the ability to aim some weaponry with a rotary joystick. And SNK's love of the rotary joystick is widely known. I do sort of want to try and get that MAME Akari Warriors arcade stick with the rotary built in.
Oh, yes.
You know, it's sort of expensive for a couple, but it definitely has a unique feel for it that is hard to emulate. So
Yeah. And I mean, this isn't the only shmup that that SNK did, shmup or shmup adjacent game that SNK did like this. The other one was, I think, called Chopper 1, if I remember right. And there was maybe one other that they did that was a full-on shmup. And then, of course, the Ikari Warriors games, at least the first two, and then Search and Rescue. But
also good for Heavy Barrel, which is not SNK, I know, but
Data East. Well, and speaking of shmups with rotary joysticks, another Data East game. I know I'm going to forget the name of it. But Gondomania. It's one that was at a restaurant when I was a kid in my hometown for a little while, and I got to play it again just briefly at Galloping Ghost a couple of years ago when I was over there, and was reminded at how difficult the game is. But yeah, the curious thing is this is coming out on Arcade Archives, even though it's already available as part of the SNK 40th Anniversary Pack. So I guess if you're only interested in a handful of games, then, it might be worth picking up separate from that. But that pack goes on sale frequently enough that it's kind of, going to be a coin toss as to which will be cheaper.
Yeah. So here's something that we both need. We need some Coffee Maker games as they continue to release new demo builds of Cosmic Destroyer, as the game is now in version 0.8.4.
Yeah. Coffee Maker Games dev is actually in our Discord and is constantly sharing updates to the game. And every time I see that there's a new update to the demo, I try to go on Steam and download the update and play around with it. And I feel like the game is getting tighter and the experience is getting better overall over the last several builds. Resurrection Core is a new vertical shooter on Steam from Ramen Kaito. Released on November 27th, it's a Danmaku that appears to have analog movement as well as multiple weapon options.
Instead of shoot the core, we resurrect the core.
Something like that.
MSX2 shooter Super Laydog Mission Striker is the next shooting game releasing on the Egg console service to Nintendo Switch. This originally released in 1987 as the second game in the series, following 1986's original Laydog game. In 1988's Laydog 2 Last Attack on the MSX2. Yeah, I need to do some more with the MSX2, because I have an MSX2 and I just don't have enough. I think if I get one of those EverDrives for it in order to help increase the memory, most of the libraries are well trodden. I don't have a huge history with the Commodore 64 or the MSX or the Amiga. I want to sort of dive into some of those libraries. I'm not saying we're all going to start playing Euro shmups, but or some of the other weird Gradius titles, but it certainly was before a lot of the standards came out, which means you can end up with some really weird experimental stuff that is always interesting to play.
Yeah. Based on an email announcement from Castlemania Games, both Undeadline and Tool Plan Shooters Collection Volume 2 Sega Genesis reprints are shipping now. I have already received my Undeadline in the mail, and several of our Discord members posted photos of theirs as well. And then some of us also mentioned we got the $30 refund from
for the Tool Plan collection too.
Yeah, whatever retailer we bought it through, because my understanding is that the Twin Cobra Genesis version is the one that was pulled from the collection. I think the fear initially was that it might have been something related to Grindstormer because of the Tengen connection. But it seems like it's something to do with Twin Cobra, and so the collection will just be Slap Fight MD and Grindstormer, which is fine with me. A, we've already covered Twin Cobra. B, I already own the Genesis version of that. And C, it was released widely enough that it doesn't need to be out there again. Whereas the other two games, the Slap Fight never got a Western release on the Mega Drive or the Genesis, and Grindstormer, because of the cheap PCBs that Tengen used when they manufactured it, if you look at a Grindstormer cart wrong, you'll probably ruin it. So I'm okay with that.
All checks out with me. Zatherfall from Renze Games is a forthcoming vertical shooter on Steam, set for January 22nd, 2026 release. It has a 16:9 aspect ratio, 3 different pilots and ships, and it has visual novel elements as well. The Steam page says it's a bullet hell shooter, though the trailer really doesn't reflect that.
Yeah, we talked about this before. I think bullet hell, I say in air quotes, has just sort of become a catch-all for shmup or, shooting game of some measure.
Right. The word itself has sort of lost a lot of its meaning in there. So I get it. And Mark MSX was having an AMA from inside a CRT a couple days ago asking and people were talking too about the meta progression, basically styles that you get from Vampire Survivors and that stuff, calling that stuff bullet hell and shmups when they're technically really aren't, because they're just Mark through what a lot of his stuff talks about, if you can't get better by skill, but you just get better by playing the game, then it really isn't what you'd want to put it in with a shmup, right? I think he gave the same analogy with the Rubik's Cube. It may look hard, but if you keep going at it, you'll eventually succeed.
Yeah.
There's no hard fail, which, people who grew up in the 90s probably remember Sierra games. You could hard fail without missing some crazy stuff, right? Everyone, I'm sure probably people would still rage if I mentioned the pie in King's Quest V that you had to use for the Yeti, but LucasArts had never had a hard fail point, and a lot of people appreciate that more. It definitely creates a divide. I think that there should be probably a different term, but it's widely a generic enough term that most people are just going to assume that's what it is. Right. And if it grows the audience for other stuff, then it's sort of like, okay, Toho. Not everybody's going to be into the style or the aesthetic, but maybe they get hooked on the gameplay and they start playing other stuff.
Yeah, it's why
double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's like why a lot of the Discord shmup Discord discourse has kind of shifted to where someone will say cave style or Danmaku instead of bullet hell, or if they're talking about something that's older, they'll say dad shmup. That's one of the terms that's become kind of a thing here more recently. And so, yeah, it's just kind of been overused.
Yeah, I wish we had a cool term like they use for first-person shooters, boomer shooter.
Yeah, boomer shmup. But I guess dad shmup covers that. Magic Mass Production is the latest work in progress game from developer Nizikashi. It's a horizontal Danmaku that is free to play in the browser and available for download as well. There are 2 playable characters, and it's a short game with only 3 levels. And
nice.
This one's kind of neat. I messed around with it for a few minutes, and I got to what I think is the 3rd and final level on the run that I did. And so, as with most everything from Nizikashi, it's a bit esoteric, but definitely worth a look.
Sounds good. According to an article on GameBiz, Castle of Shikigami 3 is slated for an April 23rd, 2026 release in Japan or on Nintendo Switch. This will also see digital release of the first Castle of Shikigami game, as well as the Castle of Shikigami Trilogy released as a bundle. The physical version of the trilogy is planned to be a 3 CD box set. The Shikigami 2 soundtrack will be an arrangement rather than the Naomi version, and the Shiki 3 soundtrack will be will also include a bonus arrangement track. So everybody next year, get ready to shake your Shiki Maker.
Yeah, it seems like there's going to be quite a bit of Shikigami action next year.
Yeah. I think that was it 3 is on sale right now on the Steam Winter Sale. Of course, that's sort of like saying water is wet. Almost everything is on sale at the Steam sale.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. Karos, the milestone vertical Danmaku shooter that was also the last officially licensed Dreamcast game, is set for a January 2026 release on Steam. It will be published by current milestone IP holder RS34 and comes subsequent to the recently announced re-release of Karos for Switch and PS5. And
you sure that wasn't a typo? It wasn't RS232?
I am certain, yes.
All right. 2 more Evercade cartridges are coming February 2026, Taito Arcade 3 and the Turrican Collection. The only STG in the Taito Collection in the early game is the early game Lunar Rescue. The Turrican Collection will include all main Turrican games. The only couple of those are shooter stages. I have to say that we've really come a long way with the Evercade line. I think they're at a pretty good point now where it wouldn't be hard to recommend people to grab one. It's still going to be niche upon niche, but as far as another way to enjoy games and just plug in with cartridges, most of the problems have seemed, at least appear to have been ironed out.
Right.
So I think this will be 2026 will be the year I pick up an Evercade. I've already got a portable one, but maybe a consoleized one.
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing the same, jumping into that ecosystem just to, help support something that is still giving us a quality physical product.
And it doesn't have to worry about key cards.
Yes. Neon Armada from Wise Studios is a new vertical shooter in development. Only a couple screenshots are available on the developer's itch.io page, but the description mentions a neon cyberpunk aesthetic, a fully voiced AI guide called Luma 7, as well as a robust power-up system and unlockable ships. And based on the screenshots, the AI guide is not like, ChatGPT in your game, but it's more like Cortana from the Halo games, or I can't remember the name of the AI, but similar thing
Clippy.
In Rigid Force Redux, where it's like a computer that you can talk to and that maps out the galaxy for you and that kind of a thing.
Yeah, I think the name you're looking for is Clippy.
Sure, let's go with that.
Yep. I was in a Microsoft presentation for AI, and that's what they had called. They were building a product, and the product had a mascot called Clippy. So,
yes,
Clippy the Undying. ROM editor hacker Imani S. Costa has released a ROM hack of Sega Mega Drive Shooter Eliminate Down. This includes a remix mode that allows for greater control of the 6-button pad, as well as other quality of life features. This new mode is accessible from the game's option screen. Check out the full list of features and download the patch from romhack.ing page.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that we recently had the Retrobit re-release of Eliminate Down, and now there's this enhancement patch. But it's good that this game is getting some love. Deez and Riggy Dragooner is a new game, a new name-your-own-price horizontal shooter on itch.io from developer Wrath of Wood. The game's page says that this is a spin-off of the Deez and Riggy vs. the Worlds series. It has a cartoony look to it with 2D graphics that have a bit of a throwback DOS look to them. And I had to look this up because I was not familiar with this, and I guess Deez and Riggy are streamers and there's a fan-made, they're like fan-made RPGs based on these characters. And so, anyway, I don't know. It's a thing apparently. But
Well,
somebody made a
you
shmup.
gotta, yeah, I mean, you gotta thank JJ and Jeff for that. Kaido and Ken,
Right.
isn't on there. And I was just thinking that probably what this would translate into, right? We have maybe a Mr. Beast. Oh, geez, that's a bad rabbit hole down there. But
Yeah. But this is almost like Five Nights at Schmuppies. That's the vibe I get.
5 Nights at Clippy's, indeed. All right. Neotro's Never Awake Flashback is out now on Steam as of December 10th.
Yeah. The what was originally supposed to have been DLC for the first game got developed into its own full game. The Psycho shooters that were delisted on PC as of October 31st have returned to Steam, courtesy of the original IP rights holders, or I should say the current IP rights holders, Korean company KM Box. It seems that these will be the same versions as were previously published, since KM Box merely had a publishing agreement with City Connection to release the games initially. I was not familiar with this company or knew anything about them having the ownership. Most of the articles that I read at the time that these games were all being announced for Steam and for Switch and stuff was that City Connection had the rights. And so I guess the prevailing thought was that City Connection had purchased the rights, but I guess not.
All right. The forthcoming Switch 2 release of R-Type Dimensions 3 from Einen Games was originally going to be a game keycard, but Einen inadvertently spilled the beans. Hopefully they were some delicious Bush's baked beans on Nintendo, officially offering more than one game keycard size for Switch 2. They have since adjusted their website and social media to no longer mention that, but rumors have been circulating that Nintendo is working towards other game card sizes, so this is great news for fans who wanted the full game on the card, instead of merely a game keycard. Einen did confirm that they decided to put the full game on the real keycard, though it will increase the price by €10. Also, the collector's edition will have a large detailed Doppler statue along with the dual CD soundtrack.
Yeah, the Dobkeratops statue is looking pretty cool, and it's very, very tempting. The thing that I saw the other day was that it looks like, because up to this point, Nintendo has offered two options for Switch 2. Either a 64 gig card or a game key card. And it's kind of ridiculous, really, that they started this way and didn't offer more than one size of key card or game card at the beginning. But the rumors that I saw circulating also mention now that Nintendo is going to be offering 32 gig cards and 16 gig cards. I still think that that's too few options. An 8 gig card would make sense for a lot of the indie games. Yep. Even a 4 gig card, if you want to do, like a limited run, Einen, these kinds of things where the game cards are just not going to be that big. But I suppose when you're talking about economies of scale, until Nintendo gets to the point where it's going to be printing these things like money, they've got to be a bit more choosy about the sizes that they do. And of course, with the original Switch, most of these games were not that big because the graphical capabilities of the Switch itself were pretty modest. And so even good-sized games could fit on smaller cards. Or they would do the thing where you would buy the game on the card and you would get like the main campaign, but then you'd have to download the multiplayer online, or things like I bought one of my nephews the Batman Arkham collection or whatever, and it's got 3 games in the collection. 2 of them are on the game card, and then the other one you have to download. And so, stuff like that. But now, with the Switch 2, it seems like they're just like, well, either you're going to go all in and you're going to spend the $20 or whatever it is on the 64 gig card, or you just make it a download. So it's good to see that this is likely changing to be a little bit more broad and more options, basically.
Yeah, I do like that they have more options, although I saw the price difference wasn't much. It was like $4 at most.
Right. But when you're talking about economies of scale, if you're going to print 3,000 copies of a game, 3,000 times 4, that's no small amount that you're going to save.
Yeah.
And as long as you can do like what they're doing and pass the additional cost on to the consumer, then as long as folks are willing to pay for it. And most of the posts that I saw said that, hey, I would have rather paid a few bucks more to get the actual game on the card and not just this key.
Oh, sure.
And so I was thinking, well, maybe I'll go with the PS5 version instead of the Switch 2 version. But if it's actually going to be the game on a card, maybe I'll get the Switch 2 version.
Yeah, something tells me that you'll have a lot easier time finding the PS5 version down the road than you will ever have trying to find the Switch 2.
I think you're right.
Because I remember even with the original R-Type Final 2, even though it ran slower than a tortoise going through mud, the Switch version was really hard to find. Where the PS4 you could find all day.
Yeah, which is why, even though it performs poorly, I am glad that the Switch version was the one that I backed on Kickstarter for R-Type Final 2, because, I picked up just a standard PS4 release later, and that was easy to find.
Yeah, and while you're waiting for the Switch version to load, you can go make some coffee.
Audiomech from Dylan Fitterer is a forthcoming shmup-adjacent game on Steam. It combines run-and-gun action with arena shmup-like stages and is focused on music as a means of helping to create and power the gameplay. From the creator of AudioSurf, the game will use both the sounds and beats from the music that you play to procedurally create levels and enemy waves similar to Beat Hazard. No release date is currently set.
Sounds good to me. Extinction Core 2005 is a vertical shmup in development from TRQ Studios. It is the first public demos available from the game's itch.io page, and the developers also launching a Kickstarter campaign to help fund further development. FPGA
developer Atrak17 has been working on new Toaplane cores and recently showed off footage on social media of Twin Cobra running on the Analog Pocket. Atrak is also working on updating other Toaplane cores, both for MiSTer and Analog Pocket, and as always, updates will be available via the Patreon first and then released later to the general public.
Very nice. Always good to hear more cores, whatever FPGA they go to. Although the Analog Pocket seems to be getting some crazy support recently with the ability to dump or back up your own Game Boy games.
I know, that's pretty crazy. And, I already purchased a I can't remember who makes it now, but a little small USB Game Boy ROM dumper. I want to say maybe it was actually I think it was D-Tungsten that hooked me up with that. But yeah, it's cool that people will have this option now.
Agreed. Indie shooter Xenofighters R continues to see development as they hit a big milestone with version 0.401. 2 new fighters have been added, including the classic Insectoid from Mapidia and the iconic Fire Leo 4 Rhinox from Thunder Force 4. There's a new stage and a lot of balancing, refinement, and improvements in visuals and audio. The Xenofighters itch.io page has a very lengthy changelog from the developers that covers the whole gamut of updates.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll ever get to a 1.0 version of this game, but it is cool to see that all these years later after the development started, that it's still happening, there's still work being done, and, there's still an active community of people playing this. I'm hesitant to plug it into the Shmup Club at some point, because while it's still in active development, things are always going to be changing. But it kind of warms my heart to see that this project isn't dead.
Yeah, and hopefully we can hear the same of Dispatch Games soon.
Oh, I just died a little inside. Well, not that we want to direct you anywhere else for your Shmup podcast needs, but if you're already caught up on your Shoot the Corecast episodes, the Living La Vita Loca podcast has recently released part 2 of their Top of the Shmups episodes, ranking various shooters that they've played.
Very nice. And those of you who have that song in your head, we're sorry.
Yes.
Unico has pre-orders open now for their Ride-In themed Nova Blast cabinets that have previously been teased. Early bird pricing is around $1,400. And mystery game that has previously been mentioned is turned out to be Dark Mist, a former PS3 download game that's sort of a Zelda-like 2.5D arena shooter. This is one that's really hard for me because I like the idea. I like earning the stuff back. But when you hit this price point, and it's almost identical to the cost of getting a Vulex cabinet, it's a really hard sell. And not only that, anyone who has looked at getting some of the stuff has probably already invested in Arcade 1-Up stuff at this point, and they have proven that there really isn't that much of a market themselves at this point. It's just not there. And the people you are going to sell to who are being enthusiasts, if they could get the actual product like a Vulex for the same price, it's really hard to do.
Yeah.
The only thing you could get it is getting a deal where you have a legal copy of your Ride-In games, but that's not a huge thing when you could do something like just get a Vulex and hook up a 360 or a Switch. You just have to expect a very specific audience, and as much as I hate to say it, I don't think it's there.
Yeah, the inclusion of the games is definitely a boon for the price point. Although I would be curious to know what the emulation is like for the Raiden Fighters games because of I think it's 54 FPS gameplay, and whether or not the games will be real stuttery or difficult to play on this. I will say the Unico Nova Blast cabinets have had some quality control issues from what I understand. There are several YouTubers who collect this stuff who purchased them and did honest reviews that said, yeah, mine had issues when it arrived. I contacted Unico. Some stuff they were really responsive about, other stuff maybe not so much. And so their initial run of Nova Blast cabinets, I think they had some real issues with. I would hope that by the time these roll off the assembly line, some of that will have been resolved and they will have tightened things up, but you never know. And so, as with anything like this, caveat emptor. But yeah, I was having some discussion with a few folks in DJ Psycho M1's Discord, and or I guess now it's just the Pandemicade Discord, and yeah, they were saying that you're getting into Vulex territory at this point, and just like what Joel did years ago, you just outfit your Vulex with a 360 and a switch dock, maybe a gaming PC or something like Taito Type X style hardware, Type X, Type X2, or Type X3, and you've got access to a huge library of stuff that will play really well in that setting, and that includes the Raiden games, or at least most of the Raiden games. So it's a hard sell, and I think for my money, whenever I buy a new house, if I've got room for it, I would probably just be looking at getting a Vulix and going that route. Just throw a couple of consoles or a PC in there and call it good.
Well, not only a PC or a console, and you also have access to a Mister. Mistercade, right? That really opened up a lot of doors. Well, although it doesn't have Raiden just yet, the fact that we're starting to see talk of a Mister successor really, in lieu of the Mars project dying. But at least the option is there to upgrade. Unlike so much in the PC space or in the technology space these days, right? We actually have a viable upgrade path. So,
right,
even doing something like that would be pretty impressive.
Yeah. Touhou Love Story, Locked Together from developer Mugenri, is available now on Steam as of December 17th. It's specifically inspired by the 16-bit console era in terms of colors and music, specifically having a soundtrack that sounds like it could have been done on the Genesis. It's still a Danmaku game, however, and has lots of on-screen projectiles, many more than what Genesis and Mega Drive hardware could handle.
When we're saying sounds like Genesis, does that mean we're like good Genesis or bad Genesis? Is it like U.S. Marble Madness type situation, or Thunder Force? Because there is a big depending upon who has access to the hardware and what they know how to do with, there is a wide range.
Right. I'll say it's somewhere in between.
Fair enough. A YouTuber named Hoffman recently uploaded a video showing footage of the arcade version of Zero Wing running on Neo Geo hardware. Apparently this project has been in the works for a while, with most of the work was done to make the port largely complete sometime in 2024, but there's still issues to work out. The video description said it was uploaded as a reminder to the developer to finish the work and get it released. There's been a lot of, can I port it to the Neo Geo now, which is pretty interesting to see. Hopefully we get some more really weird ports.
Yeah, it's kind of cool nonetheless. Hamster is getting ready to celebrate their 500th game release, and the final title for 2025 that will bring that total to 500 will be none other than Space Invaders. This will be a standalone release, of course, outside of any other compilations. And then the first game released in 2026 will be Space Invaders Part 2 as a follow-up. They kind of teased that they were doing something big for the 500 game, and there were definitely some disappointment in that regard, but I kind of understand why they're going this route, because even though you had Pong before this, you definitely see that Space Invaders was the game that pretty much kicked off the arcade revolution as we know it today, and is the game that really became the catalyst for most of the gaming that we interact with today.
Yeah, you can say that the game itself is not very exciting, but to have something of this caliber, you definitely understand the historical significance behind it and why they chose it.
Yeah.
So, here's to 500 more.
There you go.
A free Japanese Doujin 3D shooter is available now, titled Megamar. This can be obtained from a free game Mugen JP site. Releasing December 14th from developer Makoto, This is a low poly 3D shooter that appears to play like a cross between Iridian 3D and Panzer Dragoon. It sounds like Mega Mars. Sounds like it could be from the Power Rangers.
For some reason, I just think of Malamar. The developer behind Grand Cross Renovation is apparently working on an official sequel to the game, tentatively titled Grand Cross 2. There was something else in the logo that was released, or in the thing that was released on social media, but I couldn't read it. So we're going to go with Grand Cross 2 until I see more information that actually confirms what the real title is.
Grand Cross 2, the Crossing. All right. Hot Winged Hellions is a forthcoming shooter on Steam from Loch Ness Labs. It's a vertical shooter with some dynamic elements that is built upon the idea of couch competitive play, much like Twinkle Star Sprites, in the more recent rival Mega Gun. No release date is set, but based upon the trailer, it looks like we will have some bullet canceling aspect, as well as meddling system. Not like you meddling kids. It's MEAD. So as in trophies, meddling system that is reminiscent of Gigawing. It also has sci-fi meets Old West element to the design. So here we go again with the Jamestown beef. It's what's for dinner.
Yeah, this actually gives me vibes more like Anger Force Reloaded, as far as the look. But yeah, and I would have 1cc'd too if it weren't for you meddling kids.
I say that every time I play.
Well, that is all the news you can use.
So let's harken back to October of 2025 and talk with the people who played with us for Hazelnut Hex. They were Master Who, Eat Electric Death, Pony Trigon, Dio Wraith, Manavia Gagwa, Hyperdread, Desolus, Corkman 77, Diane, Skosh, and Zero Lux. So as we mentioned earlier, the game played during October 2025 was Hazelnut Hex. Hazelnut Hex is the first game from the developer named James, also known more so by his alias of Chunderfins, which is based upon a fake cartoon band called the Chunderfins that James created as an avatar for some music he was making that later developed into a real band. It sounds like James and the Chunderfins, Josie and the Pussycats, Hey Hey, we're the Chunderfins. Stuff. It's certainly a very unique name. Chunderfins is also an artist, in addition to being a musician, and of course now a game developer. Of course, he has been doing animation as a job, including providing some animation in a pilot for Adult Swim show Smiling Friends. Chunderfins began work on Hazelnut Hex in October 2018, with the game seeing released 4 years later. The game initially released on the Chunderfins itch.io page and on Nintendo Switch and later on Steam on November 29, 2023. Curiously, Chunderfins has also made both version 1.0 and 1.10, the most recent game, freely available on archive.org as well. The game's soundtrack received a digital release on Bandcamp on October 1st, 2022 to coincide with the general release of the game. As of 2025, Chunderfins is still working on a second game, another shmup titled Phasgana. It uses similar color scheme as Hazelnut Hex with a similar style, but a bit different character set and world. Chunderfins has stated in an interview the main game influences for Hazelnut Hex were Darius Gaiden, Gunbird 2, and Castle of Shikigami. We are talking a lot about Shaking the Shiki Maker. So let's move on to the story. Breakfast everywhere has disappeared, and it's up to you to save it. You play as Nat the witch who created the world's most popular cereal, Hazelnut Hex. Your mission, save breakfast by any means necessary. Find your friends and snap them out of their curse by feeding them breakfast to see if you can uncover clues as to what happened. It's up to you to bring the most important meal of the day back from oblivion. Okay, let's move on to the gameplay. Hazelnut Hex is a horizontal 16x9 shooter with a single protagonist, Nat the Witch. However, Nat can choose between 3 different attack types. A-Style, which is a forward shot that has a mild spread as it moves further across the screen. Nat's speed is moderate while using the A-Style. B-Style is a forward-only shot. Nat moves faster with this shot type. C-Style is a spread shot with waves. Nat moves the slowest with this style, but the spread moves more as they converge across the screen. There's a hidden force style attack type that can only be unlocked with a special input at the selection screen. Press up 11 times, then press right once, and then press the attack button and select the weapon. If you did it correctly, you'll unlock full English attack style. With this, Nat will throw out various breakfast foods in an arc in front of her sprite. Tea time-o. The game plays out across 5 stages. Stage 1 is a forest area, and the boss's stage is Millie, Nat's friend who is under a curse. She's tired of hearing Nat prattle on about breakfast. Boy, and who isn't? And specifically Hazelnut Hex cereal. Millie attacks Nat, but once she's snapped out of it, she admits she's just not a big fan of cereal. Terrible. Stage 2 is a sea area who has some Greek mythology theming. The boss of this area is Nat's friend Jules, who is in a horrible mood. She too seems to have been affected by a no breakfast curse. Unfortunately for Nat, she has no idea what the source of the curse may be. Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about this when we originally recorded this episode, but Stage 2 seemed to be an early wall for a lot of people.
Yeah, the Stage 2 boss fight in particular is kind of difficult because of the sine wave pattern that Jules throws out. And initially, I tried to stay within the pattern so that I could continue firing and, doing damage and whatnot, but it was just not quite predictable enough for me to want to do that. And so I found it much easier to sort of, because Jules will move to where your position is basically, or relative to your position. And so the thing is, follow her where she's going to be, get a few shots off, move out of the way when that sine wave pattern comes in, rinse and repeat during that first phase.
Yep. Stage 3 is an ice cave full of snow and ice enemies that try and ruin that stay. Be careful not to get boxed in by stinging snowmen, ice blocks, or icicles that will launch as soon as you pass by them. The stage boss here is Nat's friend Cass, who is cursed as well and is upset with Nat for barging into her ice cave and causing a big ruckus. Reminds me of that, I don't know what that Peanuts quote sticks from me. I don't want to be accused of inciting a rumble.
Yes.
What a great pumpkin. Once the curse is lifted, Cass apologizes to Nat for being so rude, but doesn't know anything more about the curse itself. Yeah, Stage 3 was definitely on my wall for a while. It took a while to get through, especially because it has a mid-boss and the chomping sort of semi-mid-boss.
Yeah, it's almost like two mid-bosses or 2 mini-bosses throughout Stage 3. The chomping ice thing and then the floating snowman head. Most of the time, the floating snowman head didn't give me much trouble, although occasionally I would get caught by the orange rings it throws out. But that chomper definitely got me a couple of times. The Stage 3 boss, though, Cass, that's a tough fight because you get the sort of 2 large rows full of spikes or icicles coming at you on the top and the bottom of the screen. So you kind of get boxed into a limited area. And then she shoots out these large orbs that then leave behind them these trails of smaller bullets. And you kind of have to weave through the openings in the pattern. But as far as I can tell, the pattern is random. And so you just have to read it. Well, then while you're doing that, you're also dodging between a few smaller spikes or icicles in between all of that. Or I guess that's phase 2, but either way, it's a tough fight.
Indeed. Stage 4 takes a little bit of a curve and is a Halloween themed level. You fight many ghosts with such as ghost bats, witches, and gargoyles, all trying to take Nat down. The boss here is Nat's, well, I wouldn't say friend, it's even more like frenemy, Vivian, who is a goofy succubus type character. She doesn't seem to be on the same curse as the rest of her friends, but Nat gets very upset when Vivian says she didn't notice that something had happened to breakfast because she doesn't even think breakfast is that important. Thankfully, after the fight, Vivian isn't mad at Nat, and Nat apologizes for her for jumping the gun. But as you mentioned this last time, she's still most of the time at the end she will jump over the boss, and this time just runs right through her.
Yeah, that was a fun little detail because it's like after your conversation with the bosses post boss fight are finished, she'll like sort of fly over the boss to move on to the next area. But yeah, here in stage 4, she just rams right into Vivian and knocks her down, and then keeps flying. So it's like, yeah, you apologized for being rude and for attacking you because you said you didn't like breakfast, but you might still be holding a grudge.
Stage 5 is an underground cave with a large lava pit. This level is full of all sorts of nasty enemies that fire bullets at you. The boss of this level is Nat's friend Sabine, a Reaper who originally says nothing when you encounter her. Assuming she's under the curse, Nat attacks. When she defeats Sabine, she'll thank you for snapping out of her trance, but when Nat asks Sabine if she has any idea what happened at breakfast, she's suddenly attacked by the Spanish Inquisition. No, wait. Oh, I'm sorry. Lamona.
It's the Breakfast Inquisition.
Yes, it is. Nobody expects the Breakfast Inquisition.
Yes. Our chief weapon is 12 vitamins and minerals.
I think that seems to be the kit for everything. Everything's got 12 vitamins and minerals. It doesn't matter. It could be like the John Belushi Saturday Night Live where they're doing little chocolate donuts that have been on my trading table for years. Now enhanced with 12 vitamins and minerals.
Yes.
Lamona, who is the game's true last boss. Lamona is a fellow witch who's also creator of a rival cereal, Cauliflower Curse. She set the events in motion to remove breakfast so she could get traction for her cereal. You know, you gotta be really dedicated to breakfast if you decide to set world destruction in motion so you can move your breakfast cereal.
Yeah, definitely some evil dictator energy going on there.
Indeed. Unlike the other bosses in the game, Lamona has 3 phases, each of which comprise 1/3 of her health bar. Once you deplete all of Lamona's health, she readies a final attack against Nat, but Sabine kills her instead. Lamona comes back as a ghost, and not a Casper the Friendly One. And she's not mad about it because it differentiates her from Nat, making it easier to market her cereal. In addition to the main rapid attack, Nat has 2 other attacks. Well, sorry, before we go on, there's something I wanted to talk about here. When I initially did this, I thought, did I need to play on the higher difficulties? Did I miss something? Do I need to buy some DLC? Because when you beat Lamona, she, in terms of her ghost, her breakfast cereal ends up being the #1 champion. And all I was thinking is, either I missed something with the true last boss, or everyone in here has COVID.
Well, and see, I don't know, because unless there's some kind of specific win condition where you get a different ending, I have not seen any indication that there's anything but this ending. And I'm okay with that, because I think it's kind of fun that it pokes, it's not like the happy ending, quote unquote, that you would normally think of. I mean, yeah, it's a happy ending in the sense that the breakfast curse is gone and Nat's friends are back again. But it's not the typical hero's ending where, Nat not only saved the day, but or cereal remains the undisputed king of breakfast cereals across the land. And so it's actually kind of a fun and cheeky subversion of that idea, which I enjoyed.
Yep, so that tells you if someone you know looks like they haven't had breakfast, smack them around until they tell you otherwise.
Yeah, real life lessons from Chunderfins.
Indeed, and knowing is half the battle, the other half is violence, kids.
Yes. Or what's the G.I. Joe meme? Knowing is half of the battle, the other half is red and blue lasers.
So, in addition to the main rapid fire attack, Ned has two other attacks. The first is a charge shot, which can be charged by not firing for a moment until a sound cue indicates the charge is complete. And charge attacks are more powerful and can clear most enemy projectiles in their wake. The second other attack type is the laser, with finger quotes here, which is sort of screen clearing bomb. It will damage or destroy all enemies and wipe out all projectiles on the screen as well. Along the way, Nat will encounter a few items to collect, such as hazelnuts, which will power up her main shot for every 6 you collect. You'll power up to the next level, which maxes out after collecting the 6 hazelnut after reaching level 5. If you're playing the full English weapon, the hazelnuts turn into teacups instead. Felled enemies will yield star items. As you collect them, you'll fill a meter at the bottom of the left of the screen. Once the meter is full, you'll stock another laser bomb up to a maximum of 6. Sometimes an enemy will drop an item that looks like a squirrel in a bubble. This is your companion, Sam. Picking up Sam will clear all bubbles on the screen, and Sam provides additional firepower for Nat. It's just a straightforward shot, except for the full English option, at which point Sam also throws breakfast foods in an arc. You know, that's exactly what you need. I need a squirrel option that throws breakfast foods.
Yeah, there you go.
As you play and score throughout the game, you'll earn an extent for every 500,000 points you earn. Unlike most games, Nat only has 1 life, so like Death Smiles, hearts act as lives but without having to respawn and taking a hit. In addition to the normal difficulty, you can also unlock the moderate difficulty, which is the harder mode. And this mostly means more bullets and denser patterns, but otherwise doesn't change too much. The game was turned from version 1.0 to version 1.1.0 to be more difficult. Upon the initial release, the standard difficulty was much easier. One fun touch about the game is that you can play through the credit sequence. You fly around the Sam, shooting a spread shot, and can shoot and destroy all the words in the credit sequence. You score a point for every word destroyed. If Sam takes a hit, your credit resets to 0. You can't actually lose during the sequence either. Another neat touch is when you hit multiple enemies with your charge shot. The number of enemies you hit with a single volley will determine the message you see at the top left of the screen. At 10 enemies, you'll get the toasty message. No way message. If you manage to take out enough at once, you'll be rewarded with voice clips saying, "Check, please."
Yeah, I managed to do this a few times when I was playing the full English style, and I managed to get up to 20 enemies in one volley. I don't know that we figured out the exact number of enemies you have to hit in order to get the check please, but it's definitely more than 10. And it's kind of a fun little nugget there. Talking about the graphics here briefly, Hazelnut Hex has a very distinctive visual style. It's a cute 'em up through and through with a cartoony design, but it's got the unique pastel palette that gives the game its own flavor. The colors are nearly all pinks, purples, and some blues, along with a bit of green and some orange depending on the stage. Enemy designs are somewhat simplistic based on a number of tropes, but also charming with their kids' comic book style. And then larger enemies tend to have enough detail to give them some personality, particularly mid-bosses. Animation is also solid, and the game looks and feels fluid as it plays. Thankfully, enemy projectiles are typically easy to see, even with the specific color palette, because of the outlines around most moving sprites. With regard to the sound, the game has a very upbeat, cheery soundtrack that is not only fitting for the setting and style, but also extremely catchy. And I will attest to that because, like a lot of these games, as the month drags on and I'm still playing, I'm whistling or humming while I'm streaming. Each stage theme is unique and does a good job accompanying the action on screen. Sound effects are generally good, with nothing being obnoxious or obtrusive. There are helpful sound cues as well, like the aforementioned charge shot ready sound, or when you get an extend, when a boss triggers an extra volley of bullets to cancel, or when you have collected enough hazelnuts to power up to the next level of your shot. The voice work in the game was provided by Stephanie M., and I don't know if it's Comure or Comure, who provided voice work in Psychonauts 2, Fallout 4, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and River City Girls 2, among other games. Her work here is very good and has a lot of inflection. It definitely elevates the game and provides even more personality to the character of Nat. Now, touching on the scoring, there are several factors that all come into play as far as scoring within Hazelnut Hex. Once you reach full power, collecting hazelnuts is part of that. For each hazelnut that you collect after hitting max power, then you receive an additional 100 points. The base value of the hazelnut is 1,000, and so then the next one will be 1,100, and then 1,200, 1,300, and so forth. And of course, it stacks up per hazelnut, and so by the time you get to the end of the stage, if you take out enough enemies and get enough hazelnuts, then that becomes a not insignificant number of points. Also, collecting stars. Stars are each worth 50 points each, and one thing that we didn't mention before, but if you take enemies down with a charge shot instead of the regular shot, you get slightly more stars. And so again, it's not a huge difference when you're only talking about 50 points per star, but if you play that out across an entire stage, it's going to add up. Now, there's also points involved in using your laser to cancel bullets. You get 100 points for every bullet canceled with the charge shot, or with the laser. There are some sections of the game that can get pretty hairy, and so that becomes a good scoring mechanic, particularly during some boss fights. But the biggest factor in scoring, by far, is the multiplier. You get that through using the charge shot. When you use the charge shot on enemies, the first enemy that you hit with that charge shot will give you a ×2 multiplier. For every subsequent enemy that you hit, that multiplier goes up by 1. And so let's say you hit a group of 6 enemies. Well, by the time you get to that final one, that's going to be a ×7 multiplier. And so, of course, you can see where that's going very quickly, where using a charge shot to get the absolute most enemies at a time is going to net you a much higher score. I do know, as I said, since I was able to get the ×20, or the 20 enemies all at once in a single shot with the full English, I know that the multiplier goes up to at least ×20. I don't know if it goes higher than that, or if there are any spots in the game where it's possible to hit more than 20 enemies at one time. There are also end-of-level bonuses available. The max hit bonus is calculated at the end of the stage, though it's not clear as to how exactly that number is calculated. And there was some discussion on this in the Discord, but we never really came to any kind of consensus on that. Max cancel bonus is based on the number of enemy bullets you've canceled on the current life, and I want to say someone mentioned in the Discord, might have been Diane or someone else, but it seems to be based upon the highest cancel that you were able to get during the course of the stage. Damage bonus will be a minimum of 10,000 points if you defeat a stage end boss, but then it's cumulative based on the current life. So obviously the longer you survive during the course of a stage, the higher that bonus is going to be. The boss dodge bonus is awarded if you can survive an entire boss fight without letting go of the fire button and not using the charge shot. And then you earn a SAM bonus as well if you survive all the way through a boss fight without taking any hits, and then that way you still have SAM with you. And that's a 20,000 point bonus. Each boss also awards a base bonus value for defeating it. And so that starts at 50,000 points for the stage 1 boss and increments by 10,000 points for each stage, which means you'll get 90,000 points for beating Sabine, and then you'll get 100,000 points extra when you beat Lamona. So quite a bit going on with the scoring there. Not super complex, but layered enough that there's definitely meat on the bone.
All right, let's move on to the impressions of the game. Our first thought comes to us from Master Who, says, "Yay! I love Hazelnut Hex. First run of the month. I've already gotten a normal 1cc on this game, but went ahead and secured a higher score. I would definitely recommend using the charge shot whenever possible. It'll clear bullets and boost your score pretty high, giving you lots of extends in the process. We'll be tackling the higher difficulties later this month. I 1cc'd moderate difficulty and got a moderate increase in my high score. There wasn't another difficulty unlocked past moderate after beating it. Does anyone know if there's a difficulty past moderate? So far, no."
Correct. And since Master Who mentioned extends, I forgot to mention too that you get an extend for every 500,000 points.
Pushing further this morning, I got a new normal difficulty personal best of 5.3 million. Can definitely go further. I'm positive I could reach 5.5 or 5.6 million. I don't have access to the Steam version, though I think that's the only one that has leaderboards. Does anyone know what the top score is on there? I might as well drop the $8 and buy the Steam version. If I'm serious enough to chase leaderboard scores, I think I can scrounge up $8. I did it! New score, 5.79 million. Crazy run. I took some amateur hits the first couple stages and even took a hit during the last boss. Missed some charge shots here and there and other silly mistakes in stage 3. There's still plenty on the table here, but a near perfect stage 5 blew the score sky high. I will definitely don't install comments that there would be the one. Well, GG on your high score and GG on completing the game.
Yeah. Man of Yagagwa said, "I'm going to have to get in the score contest for this one. I love Hazelnut Hex."
Corkman77 says, "This is a fun game. Gonna enjoy it quite a bit this month."
Desala said, "Normal 1cc for me as well. It really clips right along at a pretty snappy pace with relatively little downtime. The story is lighthearted and appropriately silly. Scoreplay isn't super complex, but it's tied well enough to the mechanics and extends to be serviceable and satisfying. I dabbled with and enjoyed the higher difficulty as well. I'll be back for more."
Deal Ray says, "I'm really struggling to either use a stick or pad at the moment, but I like this one. I've been looking forward to playing it. So far on normal difficulty, I've hit 176,800, way short of the clear. I've not managed to get to cast the level 3 boss knocked over cleanly. I'm still losing, or at least taking a hit there. Thank God for the Steam Deck. Lying in a hospital bed waiting for procedure gave me an opportunity to play and take my mind off of it. Managed a new personal best, a level 5 score, 2,377,850. As far as Game Boy Guru or MetalFRO said, I do feel the difficulty of this one has been adjusted at some point. It feels harder now from when I first played it, but that may just be my lack of dexterity dragging my performance down. Still, that 1cc looks to be on for me. I'll keep plugging away. Don't get distracted by Project X-Ray. Going to get distracted by Project X-Ray. Hilariously, I was undone by feeling the need to collect the pretty little blue star bullets on level 5. If you don't want me to touch the thing, Don't make it so mesmerizing and oh so appealing. Spurred on by Guru's Clear last night, I got my 1cc this morning. Well, congrats to you. Type A, normal difficulty, 2,919,750. I was on a no-miss run until I found myself outside Viv's pattern. Somehow and took a silly hit before I realized it. Took 3 more hits fighting ghostly McGhost Switch because I'm stupid and took my eye off my charms. So I was trying to dodge Nat's whole sprite. Dodge with Nat's whole sprite because I say, well, I'm an idiot. Told you I'd get through this. Nice to have succeeded something for a change. Also try and take on boss 1 and 2 without bombs to grab the dodge bonuses. Only to find out if you use charge beam it won't count, so I was down on score. Bomb when you want, folks. Next up, type C. The lower speed of that one will fit my dexterity a little better now, as I usually prefer more speed, but finding controls often twitchy right now. And my thanks to Atmaster Who for the recent Ride and 4 practice. After playing that, Hazelnut Hex felt really easy. Anyone think that Viv the Succubus at end of stage 4 is an R-Type 3 player? Those beams at the bottom and the top look awfully like the capsule lasers from the Cyclone Force, the yellow crystal power-up. I got a second 1cc, Type B. Normal difficulty, new perfect, PB. I found survival with Type B much more difficult through charge shot wizardry pulled it through. Quick break, and then I'll try and make it through 3 for 3 with Type C. Heck yeah, 3 for 3. Type C for 1cc, 3,154,250. Breakfast saved, courtesy of lunch. It was scrappy, lost a few hits, answering team calls for work. I think that's enough witchery for one day on a moderate 1cc in each. I wonder, I don't think I'll ever have back-to-back cleared any game in my life. I guess I clicked with this one somehow. 4 for 4. Well, 4 and a bit for 4. I restarted level 1's boss to change my controller. Tried some HH on moderate this afternoon, and despite my wife and friends' best attempts to distract me, causing a testing stage 4 and 5, I got the 4th clear. Moderate difficulty 1cc Type A. Now I need to analyze Master Who's gameplay and start chasing score. Scotland delivers! As promised, improved score 4,027,600. 1cc, normal difficulty, using Type B shot. Stages 3 and 5 were scrappy attack, more improvements can be made. I have to say, playing for score is harder than moderate difficulty survival, and you end up using a lot more bullets on screen. Well, I failed to get the full English clear, really struggled with bosses with this weapon. Tried too hard to keep my dodge bonuses, I think. Couldn't understand why I was struggling so hard until I quit at 1 a.m. and checked my settings. I was playing on moderate. What a numpty. Got to a final boss and gassed out at 3.8 million when I croaked on that run. So I think that DL Wraith is our official Hazelnut Hex Hobbit. He went for first breakfast, second breakfast, and somehow came back for 11 Z's.
Yes. Seems that way. Pony Dragon says, face it, breakfast is ruined. I just wanted to say that at least once. Anyways, yeah, that stage 2 boss is pretty nutty. I'm going to be doing a lot of practice runs with this one. And then later on, so I did some tweaking, and inverting the charge shot controls helped out a lot. Furthest I got was the stage 3 second mid-boss, the Snowman. Definitely feels like a game where I can confidently say I might be able to eat a full box of cereal this month, also known as getting a 1cc. And then again later, sadly, I've been skipping breakfast too much because the burnout hit me earlier than I anticipated. That, and I was busy being stuck in the middle of the Pacific Northwest with only a possessed car. In other words, I'm going to have a few bowls of cereal to catch up with y'all later today after work. I think after Pony Trigon posted that first bit in the Discord, I posted the gif of that meme of the YouTube food reviewer who that goes around periodically that says, my disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined.
Alright, Hyperdread says, just bought the game, might not get to play today. 1 cereal clear, part of a delicious breakfast, definitely coming back for seconds. It's never too early for breakfast. New PB on normal. Well, congrats on your CC and new PB.
Indeed. Diane said, third run back since not playing for a year. 4.2-ish million pace. Not terrible. The first 2 runs immediately crashed and burned. Hoping to go for 5 mil this month, but we'll see. Very rusty on shmups in general. Later on, hate to admit it, but with how rusty I am, I score higher by playing more for survival. Also, the ice stage is my number 1 hater. Playing that thing for score is evil. I would tend to agree. Later on again, I literally got an account on the Shmups wiki to make a page on Hazelnut Hex with that info. I just got busy and never actually made it. Sigh. It's been a year, but I'll say my own bits of info. Cancel bonus is based off the best cancel obtained that stage. There's a designated spot for the best cancel too, which comes with a sound cue and everything near the end of the boss fight. Damage bonus is based off not getting hit. Dodge bonus is got from not using a charge shot on the boss and not getting hit. Sam bonus is from having Sam. Nuts work like meddling. Goes up in value with each collected this stage, resets on taking damage. They're a huge part of score, and you want to get as many as possible and not get hit. Bombs are charged from the little stars. Charge shot starts a combo that multiplies the value of killed enemies. Big enemies have much higher values, so it's important to kill them at the end of a big multiplier chain when possible. Keeping enemies alive for a while often helps with this at the cost of harder survival. I do not remember what max hit bonus is. Each cancel gives you score, but you also get a special bonus based off your best cancel of the stage. There was a later post with a screenshot showing a score. Well, not good enough. Ended with 10 lives, though. I got messed up in stage 3, of course, and took a hit near the very end of the final boss. I don't think it would have been 5 mil anyways. I'm lacking, but it's a PB regardless. Man, y'all genuinely have no idea the kind of run I just threw. This is the score after I got hit 3 times in the final stage for no reason. At some of the worst possible moments. I am not exaggerating when I say I threw having the single best recorded run currently in existence. I even got some really risky but cool strats in. Do any of you know how to get a not terrible hit count in stage 4? Anything above 10. This spot with the ghost seems like the only decent place for it, but you give up valuable nuts since some will escape if you try to get an optimal max hit. Maybe a bomb here right after this solves that? We'll test. Okay, yeah, the current highest scoring replay objectively loses a lot of points here. And then again later, I'm definitely realizing my priorities were off, which is the kind of thing that's much easier to see once I'm watching someone else's gameplay. Like this one spot in stage 4, I always focused on getting both nuts, because that's a few thousand points felt like a big number. But hitting the 4 times combo on that big enemy is a 9,000 point profit over killing normally, making Master Who's strat objectively better. And of course, there's places where the difference is much bigger. I suppose I could have realized these things if I bothered watching my own gameplay even. Whoops. And then a final post here. My magnum opus. You don't understand how much of an anomaly this run was. This was my first no-miss of the final stage ever without using charge shot on the boss at all, so full dodge bonus too, and saving all 6 bombs for the most lucrative attack, which I've never done. Like every aspect of this run is godsend, but I did one of the cancels about half a second early, losing me about 80 bullets canceled, I think. That's me losing the overall world record right there. I genuinely would not be able to make this run up. I guess God doesn't want me to have the world record. Gonna be real, I have no clue how to proceed after this. Do I just go back to runs for 20 hours and make no progress, probably? The downside of getting lucky, I suppose. Well, not quite luck. I have been stubbornly going for the max greed on the final boss since the very start. It had to pay off eventually. Technically, this is the highest scoring replay in existence. Well, on a side note, I think like 6.2 million is theoretically plausible. This game is a bit too RNG, though.
Yeah, That was one of the things that a little bit surprises how much RNG was within the variance in the score. I think he said that there was one that was posted but is no longer there, and that was just because of the luck of the RNG.
Yes. It's the look of the RNG, you know.
Yes, the leprechauns for Christmas. Well, leprechauns for October Christmas, or for Halloween Christmas.
It's the schmuppricons.
The schmuppercon before Christmas? Sure, why not? Alright. Eat Electric Death says, in case it wasn't mentioned, there's a hidden joke weapon in the game. One of the Steam achievements requires you to 1cc with it. Been playing the game on and off for most of the month. I've gotten very close to 1cc. I find myself in a kind of on place with a top-notch presentation, gameplay, etc., but I don't like the focus on the charge shot for scoring and survival. Feels like it reduces the whole game to optimizing your charge shot and at the expense of other elements. It really doesn't make sense, but learning how to play the game optimally made me enjoy it less. After mulling this over, I think I figured out why I dislike the charge shot so much. Now the scoring-based shmups, this is done to keep the score mechanics working tandem in the normal gameplay like shooting, like the Hyper Mode in Rolling Gunner or the Slow Time in Star Hunter DX. But in Hazelnut Hex, the charge shot invalidates the normal shooting. Example, to play optimally during stages, you should be using the charge shot only, and then not use all during bosses to get the bonus, which kind of feels like the devs realized they made charge shot too powerful with the bullet erasing. Yeah, we talked about this earlier, where instead of making it optional for score, making it sort of a requirement in order to be pretty good with the game or to get through some parts, does detract from the game's playability.
Right. Zaralex said, I'm thinking about joining late this month. Anyone else coming in late?
I don't know why, but the Saved by the Bell song just flashed through my head. Skosh says, been away on hauls this week, but I paused the STOJ grind, couldn't stay away from shmups for so long. In a few runs of Hazelnut Hex and Switch today, and the normal mode was trickier than I remembered. Eventually got to 1cc, and managed to increase my score from a couple years back, from 2.7 million to 3.7 million. Not quite up there with you guys, but I'm glad I got it clear and improved my high score. Congrats to you in improving your high score.
Indeed. And speaking of high scores, let's go over those real quick here. On the normal difficulty, Master Who dominated everyone with a B-style clear that amounted to 5,799,450 points. Hyperjudd was next with 4,348,650 points. And then DL Wraith's B-style clear at 4,027,600 points. My C-style clear came in at 4,005,350 points. Skoush's clear was 3,732,350 points. Desolus had a clear of 3,399,050 points. And Eat Electric Death's C-style clear was 3,393,800 points. And then Pony Trigon again had 1,212,050 points. On the moderate side, Diane's aforementioned run was B-style, and that was 5,948,300 points. And as mentioned, just shy of the world record that I believe is held by Marcus Quiso, if I remember right. And it's only a few thousand points difference. And then my A-style moderate clear was 3,534,000 points even.
Very nice.
Final thoughts?
By Jack Candy. All right. So, final thoughts for me on this game. This game is a game that's really quick pick up and play. If you're looking to introduce people to shmups in general, I think this is a very good game to start with. It's also cheap enough that most people, even if they don't like it, won't feel ripped off by for me, it's something where I can sit down and play for a couple minutes and get enjoyment of it. I'm not. The graphics work for what they are. You know, it's not like I'm expecting high definition explosions or anything. It's a cartoony aesthetic. It's a cute 'em up, and it works very well. Right? I'm not expecting Michael Bay if I'm going to play Twinbee, right? Or Proteus. So it's definitely fits, and the music fits well too. Where it's not something that I'm going to go out and get the soundtrack for, but at the same time, it's not something that I'm going to want to plug my ears because it sounds like a mosquito, right? So it fits in pretty well. I think the best thing I like about it is that it respects your time. It's something that you can play for 5 minutes or you can play for a couple hours and you'll still get some enjoyment out. I do agree with the one dissenting opinion that this game is focused upon a certain route too much, and I wish that would be balanced a little bit, so that way if it's a play styles you can either play for survival or for, I mean, you got the AB usually, right? Survival or score. And this one, it felt like it's forcing you to play a certain way, and I completely agree with that. To me, it doesn't detract as much as he had problems with it, but still, it's very valid criticism. I hope I see that rectified in the hopefully eventual sequel to this. And so again, highly recommended. It's something that almost anyone can get into very quickly and start playing and get enjoyment out of. And if they don't, then it's only $8. So it's one of those real quick. If someone asks me what to play, I'd say try this one. It's easily accessible, it's cheap, and if you don't like it, well, there's always other games, and you didn't only spend $8, which I think is less than a Coke from a fast food restaurant these days.
Yeah, less than you'll pay for popcorn at your local movie theater.
Oh, jeez, that alone will set you back an arm or a leg these days.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, I put in the outline that there were difficulty changes from 1.0 to 1.1 versions, and that's true. I want to say that I cleared the game when I first bought it back not long after it came out. I want to say I cleared the game within my first 3 runs, and it took longer than that after coming back to it because the difficulty had been rebalanced. I think that was for the best. I do like that the game was incredibly approachable before, but I feel like it's still approachable while being improved enough so that it doesn't feel like it's just a straight up cakewalk. So I do think that Chunderfin's made the right decision in rebalancing the difficulty. I do very much sympathize with Eat Electric Death's point about the game being too focused on the charge shot from a scoring perspective. It's kind of like the same idea of trying to route through Dodonpachi. And if you're playing that game for score, you absolutely have to know, okay, there's this group of enemies here that I need to move through the screen this certain way very carefully. I have to switch to laser here, then switch to shot here, and then switch back to laser here, and then move around the screen this way to redirect some bullets. And it's all this delicate dance, but the idea is that you never drop your chain. And in this game, of course, it's all about how do I maximize my charge shot to get the highest number of multiplier, volleys throughout the stages. How do I do the thing where I manage to get a larger enemy taken out at the end of a chain so that I get the biggest multiplier on that higher point value and things like that. For those who really enjoy the science of the genre, that's good. But I sympathize with that point because I don't I don't like the shmup grind of optimizing a game at that level. I don't find it personally gratifying or enjoyable. I find it to be a slog. And so I get that that doing it like that is less enjoyable for some. That's one of the reasons why, and I've said this before and I'll keep saying it, why I enjoyed the scoring aspect in Ketsui to some degree, because it doesn't feel like, well, you can't full chain a stage like you can in a Dodonpachi game, but you get these little bite-sized areas where you get your 5 chips and then you cash that in for a little bit with your charge shot, and then you rinse and repeat, but it's in bursts. And that, for me, tends to be where I like my scoring the best, when I can sort of pick and choose where I want to engage, and then I can switch it up. And if my scoring is not intrinsically tied to survival, then, then I can, in some places, just focus on dodging, routing, etc. At some level, the scoring does tie in with the survival, because of course the charge shot clears a lot of enemy projectiles. So there is a cohesiveness to that, but it still feels limiting in some way. Because, it's a shoot 'em up, not a charge and then shoot 'em up. And so that's the one aspect that I think I would have to agree and say that, yeah, if you're playing for score, prepare to not shoot a lot, prepare to charge a lot, and just know that that's going to be a part of your experience. But overall, I would say this is a very solid title especially for a first game, and certainly something that Chunderfins should be proud of for having produced a game at this level of quality right out of the gate. And so hopefully the follow-up game, Phasgana, will be equally good or better, and we'll have additional interesting stuff going on with the scoring system. And so hopefully it's not just a redux of charge and then fire in order to score, but hopefully we get something else that is, varied and not just the same thing. But yeah, overall, I found this game to be very enjoyable, and despite my frustrations with the full English, it's a very, very approachable, charming, and fun game.
Yeah, when you mentioned Ketsui, I immediately thought about your comments about Espelud 2, where you choose your own way to increase your score. Do you you have a meter, do you go, I don't mind so much charging the meter, I get, but when you need to have a choice of when you actively use that meter, do you wait for here or here? People may have certain segments where yes, this is the best way to get score, but it's not always going to be easy when you do this. It's really difficult to save it until then.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what's coming next. For December 2025, which we're currently playing through, we have Santa Atlantean, which is a Defender-style game. Quick and easy pick up and play. It's a free ROM for the PC Engine / TurboGrafx 16. In January 2026, we start the year with the Atari Lynx Double Shot with Gates of Zendokon and Zalor Mercenary. Both sound like they could be part of a weird lost movie set, or a B movie set that was starring Sean Connery. For 2026, our focus shot was DDP, or DFK, also known as DP Resurrection. And look forward to seeing some Shield Maiden, look forward to maybe catching some Rays for the summer, look forward to some Devil Blade. There's a whole lot of good stuff coming on. And as always, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, for those of you who who are wondering about the Atari Lynx thing. If you don't have a Lynx, don't worry. The Epix collection that is on Switch has both of those games, and they're also both individually purchasable on Steam, I think for $5. So if you want to get in on that, there are definitely, ways to do that. I mean, Lynx is on Mister, and I think Handy, the Lynx emulator for Windows, has been very, very good for a number of years. So lots of ways to do that.
Indeed. I'd also like to do shout-outs. Shout-outs to Etrem for the logo, who is also a playtester. It's his only Moby Games credit. I looked and tried to find. So congratulations, Ed. You have a Moby Games wiki entry.
Yeah.
I'd like to mention the podcast shirts, of which after this episode, I'm sure there's probably going to be at least 2 more available at redbubble.com. Kokosu for the intro and outro music, and MetalFRO for always streaming and making things interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Other than that, thank you everybody for listening and for bearing with us as we had to re-record this episode twice in order to get it right.
Yeah. Yes, and for just being patient while our schedules aligned, and so hopefully we'll be able to get the Blue Revolver episode recorded in good time, and then get that out quickly so that we can move on and pick up our schedule back in 2026 and hopefully kind of get more on track.
Indeed. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you next time.